facts and myths of fat loss, a lot of the things that are out there, misconceptions that we're being told that we're really not aware of, what the truths are about it. So it's just basically the proven principles to help you transform your body fast. It's the big thing. So just to let you know a little bit about me, obviously, you know, my name's Kevin Yates, and if I haven't introduced myself in person and you've heard of me or know of me, it's most likely just through videos or on my blog. I do my crazy videos and blog posts. And you know, it was interesting in doing this. I used to tell my clients a little bit about me, and because, you know, they would ask me questions. Oh, you must work out all the time, and you don't know what it's like to be overweight and this and that. And I'd tell them the story about what happened to me, and it was funny because as I tell this story, they'd be rolling their eyes, thinking I'm making this up. But really what happened and what led me into this whole thing was years ago, in 1995, I had left home officially for the first time, like way from home, and went to beautiful Chico, California to go to college. And while I was out there, I mean, I was always the skinny kid that, you know, I couldn't put on weight for anything. You know, I was involved with athletics my whole life, baseball all through high school and into college, and I couldn't put on weight. I was always trying to, you know, I wanted to get a little bit bigger, more muscular. And back then, you know, all the information that we had, I mean, internet was kind of just getting started up, and, you know, those were the days where you had, you know, like 15 minutes just to load up on dial-up for like a web page and everything. And so I got up there, and unfortunately all the information I got was from like bodybuilding magazines that were telling you, look, you know, you want to gain weight, you got to be eating a lot of food. And that's all I knew was, okay, let's just pile down some food to try and put on some weight. Well, in the 3.5 years that I spent in college, I ended up gaining weight. I gained 36 pounds. And unfortunately, it wasn't 36 pounds of muscle. And the way that I really, when it hit me, you know, like we gain weight slowly over time, but we never really realize what's happening. And until, you know, one day it's like we wake up, oh my God, what happened? That's what happened to me. It was literally one summer day, and I remember I was in my apartment, and my buddies lived in the complex down the road. And Chico was like, you had the extremes, kind of like here, but way worse. You know, with cold, it was like almost snowing type cold. Everything's frozen, stiff out there, like worse than over here. And in the summer, you get like 105, 110 degrees. You very rarely get your medium. But we had the one perfect day. It was just beautiful outside. So the guys say, hey, come on over. We're going to go swimming in the pool and everything. And I'm like, oh, this is great. You know, I'm shedding the hooded sweatshirts and baggy sweats and everything, and I'm putting on my swim trunks, and I'm getting ready to go, and I'm excited. And I'm in my apartment, and I remember I had like the full-length mirror in my bedroom, and I'm walking to go get my shirt, and I walk by the mirror and just kind of glance. And I kind of look, and I go, oh my, what? And I look back because something didn't look right, and I'm looking at myself, and wouldn't you know it, I just noticed, I mean, my belly was hanging right over, I couldn't see my waistline. And I turned around into the front, and same thing, they called it Dunlap, right? Yeah. Dunlap. What's Dunlap? When you belly Dunlap over your pants. That's what I had. And I'd never had a weight problem in my life. I couldn't put on weight. And all of a sudden, I was like, oh my God, I just realized I really let myself go. And I knew that part of the problem was, although I was trying to gain weight, I wasn't educated on what the foods were I was supposed to be eating. So what that meant was I was spending my time eating double Whoppers at Burger King, eating round table large pizzas, and not just a piece of it, like the whole pizza. 4 to 5 times a week, and then the big burritos at the Mexican food places, and wondering what happened to me. So that's what happened. And I got back home in 1998, and so I had this dilemma on my hands. I felt horrible about myself. My health was really deteriorating, and I was barely even 30 years old at the time. And I had to figure out what to do. So all the information that was out there was kind of what we hear about today. I knew that, okay, well, I probably have to watch the amount of calories that I eat. So I went through that where I was trying to go low-calorie diets. And, you know, I'd lose a little bit of weight, but then I wouldn't feel really good on it. And I kind of kept, you know, bouncing up within the same few pounds. I didn't really make tremendous strides toward anything. I tried to go low-fat, almost no-fat diets. Nothing was working, couldn't maintain them. I had an adventure on a low-carb diet before. It was almost like no-carb, to where I remember it one day, I was probably 3 days into this thing, and I'm working at the grocery store at the time, and, you know, I'm checking out, you know, people as a checker, and I remember I was starting to get shaky, really kind of weak and lightheaded, and I'm just kind of watching the clock thinking, oh my God, when's my break coming up? It's like half an hour, just hang on half an hour, I'm starving, and I hadn't had really any carbs in like 3 days. And it hit so bad, I got so weak and lightheaded that by the time the break hit, I tore off down the aisle. I literally grabbed a box of Wheat Thins, I grabbed a quart of chocolate milk, paid for it, zoomed in the break room, and I was just down in it. I mean, I couldn't find a strategy that worked. And I tried all the pills, the Rip Fuel pills, and all those caffeinated pills that were trying to suppress my appetite. I tried Herbalife and did all these things. Again, nothing was working. So I was really, really stuck. And finally, in 2000, I had studied and became a personal trainer. I was always into fitness a bit, and I thought, wow, this would be kind of a cool thing. You know, I wasn't happy doing the grocery work. I wanted to really venture out into this. And I also had to learn a few things about what to do to get the weight off. And so long story short, you know, I was doing what the book suggested. Again, I was kind of watching my calories, making sure I was eating proportions properly and everything, doing a lot of cardio in my fat burning zone and doing some resistance training. And I got the weight off, and but I had trouble maintaining what I was doing. So I was doing cardio 5 days a week for an hour each time. And I was, you know, really watching my calories. I was feeling like I was getting cravings a lot. So what happened was I yo-yoed back up. I couldn't maintain the workload I was doing. And I thought, well, you know, I tried different things with it. And I kept coming back to that, you know. All this cardio that's being recommended for weight loss is the most popular thing that people do. And people get stuck with it, doing it, you know, 5 days a week in some cases. I've met people who are doing it 7 days a week. And, you know, getting a little bit of results in the beginning until it stops working. And then I started getting the nagging aches and pains. My back was bugging me, my hip was bugging me. Take time off because I can't go anymore and do the workload I was doing. When you take time off, you're not as active. What happens to your weight? You start to gain weight again. So I was really, really stuck. And it, you know, it took me a lot of years, but I finally kind of figured things out. I was studying people. When I began working in the health clubs, I was studying people because it was happening to me, and I thought, if I'm going through this, what are other people going through? We're getting stuck in plateaus with what we're doing. The diets aren't working. All this cardio, it works in the beginning, and then why do we get stuck? And people were getting stuck. I was spotting those regulars, those, you know, quote unquote cardioholics, I call them, because they were like in the gym. I worked there, and it seemed like they were there before me all the time. And you know, you can count just a few of them with like any gym, just about. And they're always there, and they're pumping out the workouts day in, day out. And I kind of wondered, how did they ever go home? But they're doing all this work, and that's the thing that I saw. Why aren't their bodies changing? They're doing all that work. Why aren't they changing? And that's the thing that I got into. And at the time, I had just gotten married, and I was at a point where I was working 2 jobs. I was trying to make it as a personal trainer and supplement the income. I got into physical therapy because I had my own injuries and had clients who were coming to me, and I wanted to learn how to work with them. So I had all these time commitments. I was newly married. I had time to devote to my wife. And I didn't have all that time to spend in the gym. So that was my thing. How can I get the results that I want to get? There has to be an easier way without having to spend every single waking hour in the gym. And that's what I did. So I finally kind of, quote unquote, cracked the code with it and figured it out, that there was an easier way. But along the way, what I had discovered was that a lot of the things that were being told, certain foods that were being told to eat, diets were being recommended, strategies were being told to do, exercise programs, the way that we're being told, a lot of it is misinformation. And that's what we're going to learn about today is some of the things I'm going to talk about. So what you're going to discover, why calorie counting, eating low carbs and low fat dieting is a massive, massive mistake. That's one of the things that I figured out. It really is a huge mistake, but it's something we're being told to do. Any and all of these strategies. There's healthy foods that fitness and nutrition experts across the board are recommending that we eat to lose weight, to reduce body fat, and make us healthy. The problem is that a lot of these foods are actually doing the opposite, making it harder for us to lose weight, making us gain weight, making us sick, causing inflammation. And we'll talk about what those are today. Why your current workout is actually keeping you fat. It's keeping you from losing weight. A lot of the workout strategies that we're doing, particularly the cardio. And I'll talk about how that's happening and what you can do instead. I'm also going to talk about the #1 thing that's sabotaging your efforts to lose weight. And it has nothing to do with diet or exercise. This is one thing that you can have the best diet and exercise program on the planet. Without this, you'll find a way to sabotage it no matter what. And then also how to unlock the secret to unstoppable motivation. If you've ever had the desire to start something, or you've been on an exercise program and for some odd reason you can't stick with it, you're up and down, you're good for a week or a month, and then for some reason you stop, you just can't seem to get the motivation to go anymore. I'm going to talk about exactly what you can do to overcome it. So by the time that we're done with this presentation, you're going to have a 4-step process you can use, and you'll have all the motivation that you've ever needed. And then finally, how to find an exercise program that will help you lose fat and get in great shape fast. How to know if a nutritional strategy is going to work best for you, and how to create rapid fat loss results in 28 days or less without spending a penny. So again, that's usually, oh, okay, what's he selling? Look, I'm giving it away, basically. I'm not selling anything. So I kept telling people that. I go, why aren't they coming? Oh, he's going to sell something. So they're lost. So first thing we look up, hopefully you can see it. I'll point it out a bit, but you can do this at home. I just Googled it. If you Google the term fat loss, this is why it's so confusing. This number, 43,200,000 results. That's part of the problem. Where do we look for information now? We look on the internet. So you Google in fat loss. You Google in weight loss, it's even more than that. So in looking at that, if you've got 43 million results that come up for fat loss, how do you know who to believe? Who do you trust? What's good information? What's misinformation? And there's no laws on the internet. Anybody can get up there and post information now. So you're kind of gambling with what's going on. And that's part of the problem. We're just information overload. We're so overwhelmed with all of these solutions. And it's funny because you go into Barnes & Noble, and I did this, I was telling the group in Tracy, I recently worked with 40 of their employees over there doing a weight loss program. And one of the weekends, my wife and I went over to the mall, and Tracy went to see a movie. And I always go into Barnes & Noble, I'm a bookworm. And I always check out like the diet section to see what's new out there. And it just seems to be growing all the time. It's like these books here are nothing. You go in the diet section and all of the books, oh my God, it's just like information overload. So we've got all of these solutions that are there to help us lose weight, but what's happening in reality? We've got a bigger weight epidemic in the United States than ever. So you think with all the solutions on the market that the problem should be getting better, but it's getting worse. So where does that leave us? What's the problem? The problem is that most of the programs that are out there, we've got them all. They all have a solution for the same thing, weight loss or body fat reduction. But they're all a little bit different, right? They're all strategies. They're all different. What do you see in a bookstore? The low-carb diets. You see the low-fat diets, the organic food diets, the liquid diets, cabbage soup diets, and raw food, high glycemic, low glycemic, whatever it is, you got a million of them. Which one works? That's the problem, but they all work to a degree, but the problem is that they don't work for very long, and they don't work for everybody. What they are is they're just a bunch of strategies that you can use, but there's a problem with strategies that we'll talk about, because losing fat, really, it's not about strategies. It's about working with proven principles. So strategies versus principles, what's the difference? I describe it like this. Strategies they're simply like pieces in a puzzle. You know, when you get one of those little bazillion piece puzzles and you dump them all on the floor and you scatter all those pieces, they're like the pieces of the puzzle. And if you put that down there, you try and put the puzzle together, but you don't look at the picture on the box. If you didn't have it, it's going to be almost impossible to put that puzzle together. You can't figure out how those pieces fit. But when you work with the principles are like the picture on the box. You put the picture up there, and you can see how it all fits together. Oh, now I know how to put it together. So if you've just got the strategies, but you don't have the principles, the strategies over the long term, they're not going to be very effective for you. And a lot of them just fail. So if we're talking about strategies, then the question is, what are strategies? What are we talking about? So it's kind of like looking in the bookstores. Anything like calorie restriction, low carb, high carb diets, low fat, no fat, those type of things that we see. Those are the strategies. And you'll know a strategy because they're always changing, right? It's always something different. One week it's low carb, another week it's cabbage soup again, another week it's this, right? There's always changing. Principles, on the other hand, because they're principles, they're proven to work. They don't change. They're constant. And with principles, you have predictable, consistent results that you'll get over time. So we look at some of the strategies, the popular strategies. Number one, calorie restriction. It's the most common weight loss method. Why? Because it makes sense when we hear about it. What's the theory behind calorie reduction? Well, it goes like this. If we want to lose weight, we need to burn more calories than we eat. It makes sense. If we have more energy going out than we got putting in, we should have a weight loss, right? So it sounds logical, and it's based on the idea that that's all weight loss boils down to. Calories in versus calories out, boom. So what happens with the calorie calorie restriction, right? When you take calories away and you're burning more than you're taking in, you have a deficit, creating that's what they call a calorie deficit. So the calorie deficit, according to nutrition and fitness experts, is like the holy grail of weight loss. But if a consistent calorie deficit is maintained over time, then we should see predictable, consistent weight loss across the board, right? On end. So, for example, a pound of fat, we know a pound of fat is 3,500 calories, right? So if I have a calorie deficit of 3,500 calories, I should lose 1 pound of fat, as long as I maintain that deficit. So let's take a look at how it plays out, real life scenario. We've got typically people that will start a weight loss program. And in the beginning weeks, what happens? Well, they watch their calories, they probably doing some exercise, and the weight's coming off. Everything's great. And then it isn't too long, maybe a few weeks after, or a month after or so, and they might still be losing some weight, but it starts to slow down a bit. It's not quite like it was in those initial weeks. And then they come to the point where they hit the plateau. Everything stops. I'm stuck. Okay, well, the obvious answer then is if I reduce my calories and created a deficit, then I probably just have to create a bigger deficit, and it'll get started again. And that's what they do. They create a bigger deficit, weight loss kicks in again, but not quite the same as it was in those initial weeks. And they go on with it, and then again they get stuck. And it's this cat and mouse game all the time. Lose weight, get stuck. Lose weight, get stuck. Until what happens? They get stuck to a point where no matter how much exercise they try and do, or how much they try and reduce their calories, the weight loss isn't moving. And it gets to a point where if you've ever been through it yourself, I know because I've done it as well, where you get stuck no matter what, and you're working so hard, you're trying to do more exercise, you're trying to eat less, and you're struggling just to maybe lose another pound or two. And it doesn't take long before you're just trying to maintain what you've got, and you're doing all of this work. So again, if we're constantly reducing the calories and we're bumping up the exercise to maintain the same calorie deficit, why aren't we losing the same amount of weight? It doesn't work. It doesn't play out that way. So we want to understand, why is that happening? Well, here's the truth about calories. We have to look at 6 big points that I've discovered with it. Number 1, and I'll ask you guys this, would you agree that from everything that we know, that there's a difference in terms of the nutrients that we eat? So I'll use, for example, carbohydrates. Would you agree that there's a difference in the types of carbohydrates and the health results or the fat loss results we get between eating good carbs and bad carbs, quote unquote, right? There's a difference. Same thing with fats. We know, okay, our unsaturated fats are our healthy ones, and if we eat most of our fats from those sources, we'll probably get a lot better results than if we have like pizzas and french fries and hamburgers, right? We know all those trans fats and the saturated fats we heard about are the bad news. But get this, if we understand that there's a difference with nutrients, well, it doesn't change the calories though. Because carbohydrates, every gram of carbohydrate, whether it's good or bad, it still contains the same amount of calories, 4 calories per gram. And the same thing with fat. Each gram of fat contains 9 calories per gram. Doesn't matter if it's good or bad. So the point that I'm getting to then is all calories are not created equal. We get different results based on the types of food that we're putting in our bodies. So we cannot assume that all calories are equal, and if they're not equal, then weight loss can't just boil down to calories, right? Second thing, our calorie needs. So here's another thing. If we think about it, in order to burn energy, that we need to lose weight, we have to have energy in the first place. If it's like a bank account. If we just keep withdrawing and burning energy, and we run out of it, we're not going to be doing a whole lot anymore. Our body's going to shut down, right? Our metabolism shuts down. We've got to have some energy coming in. Now, our energy needs, would you agree that our energy needs would change depending on things like our physical activity? Right? If I'm laying around on the couch all day on a Sunday, watching football on TV, I probably don't need to refuel as much energy in my body as if I'm going out on an all-day bike ride or a hike up a mountain somewhere, right? So our energy needs, they can and they do change daily, they change weekly, they change monthly. If we think about it, it's more than just activity level. How much muscle we have versus how much fat changes how much energy that we need. Our hormones will change how much energy we need. Our hydration level will change. And it's always a constant flux. But what is the low calorie diets, what do they recommend? A target number we're always shooting for, a certain amount of calories. Well, it makes it very inaccurate because our needs are always changing. There is no one number